Okay, so I think we are ready to start. So I wanted to just introduce briefly Professor Neena Gupta. Can you hear? Yeah. Uh, so uh, she will, of course, present her seminar on triviality of affine threefold. Uh, she is a young researcher, very young researcher who has won many awards. I think the most recent Bhatnagar Award is the highest science award in India. She won that Bhatnagar Prize in 2019. And of course, she has won many other awards, B.M. Birla Prize, the Young Scientist Award. She is very well known for her work in computative algebra and affine geometry. So I am glad to have her in our seminar. So Professor Neena Gupta, I request you to start your seminar.
Thank you, sir, for this kind of invitation, and also a great thanks that you have initiated this virtual seminar, which is a great boost for these youngsters who are now at home and doesn't have anybody to talk to. So I will today I will talk about this affine threefold. So first, let me say what do I mean by triviality. So by triviality of this affine threefold, I mean that when is it's a polynomial ring. So it's a three-dimensional ring. So by triviality, I mean when is this a polynomial ring? So my whole talk is based on this threefold. So in this, we will discuss about this following questions. When is this ring A? Okay, let me just say that throughout my talk, K will denote a field. I will not use K for any other thing. And quite often, if it is algebraically closed or uh, any characteristic, but I will tell whenever I mean positive characteristic or characteristic 0. So K is any field at the moment, and A is this ring defined by this one equation, which you can see it's a very special equation. This speciality says linear polynomial in Y with coefficient of Y to be x to the power m, and this integer m is greater than 1. So this talk is about this ring A, and we will discuss conditions on this polynomial f, which is a polynomial in 3 variables, which is a variable for this threefold. We will discuss when is this ring A means a stably polynomial ring. That is when you adjoin one more variable, it is isomorphic to a polynomial ring in 4 variable. Second question, when is this ring A is isomorphic to a polynomial ring in 3 variables? And a very important question, when is this polynomial in 4 variables, this x to the power my, this defining equation, is going to be a variable in this given xyzt. So this xyzt, I am using isomorphism. This is little confusing. So to be on a safer side, let me introduce this notation which will be used throughout. For integral domains R subring of B, we say B is we write B is equal to R square bracket n. That would mean that B is isomorphic to a polynomial ring in n variables over R. That means you can have n many elements coming from B, which will generate B over R by these elements, and they are algebraically independent over R. So the questions are, when is A a stably polynomial ring? When is A itself a polynomial ring? And when is this polynomial in 4 variables, means this linear polynomial, is a special kind of polynomial, is a variable in x, y, z, t. So by a variable, I mean something that is, you can have an automorphism of this ring, K algebra automorphism of k, x, y, z, t, such that this one of the automorphism will take x to this polynomial. So that is, you can change the x, y, z, t by one of this. Now, let me give you some examples, some famous examples of this kind of threefolds. Why would anybody study this? So let me first say about this Russell-Koros threefold. To the best of my knowledge, I heard about this problem. This was probably somewhere in 1992, a paper of Russell. And Russell and Koros were investigating some family of threefolds. One of the simplest example was this threefold. This fxzt, you can see it's a linear in x plus z square plus t cube. And for quite some time, this was very interesting problem and thought to be difficult, whether this ring A is a polynomial ring. You can see this ring A, if you look at the variety given by the zero set of this polynomial, and V denotes this variety, then V is diffeomorphic to R6. That means topologically, it's almost C3. Further, this coordinate ring A is a unique factorization domain. It's a regular ring. Can be embedded inside C3 and also contains a copy of C3. This is quite obvious, but A is sitting inside C3. This is it's a little difficult, but this is a fact. Not only that, all projective modules over A are free. There were various other invariant one can think about, and most of them were matching with the polynomial. And the problem was open for quite some time, whether this variety V is the affine 3 space, or whether this ring A is itself a polynomial ring. And this problem was solved by Makal-Limonov. I will talk about this in more detail in my further slides. And this problem, why Russell was worried about this, because these were related to some of the very famous problems in affine algebraic geometry, namely the linearization and the epimorphism problem. I will talk about this also. Another famous example is Astronomer's threefold. So Astronomer has constructed this threefold in the context of affine fibration problem. So let K be a field of positive characteristic, where P is the characteristic and A is this affine threefold. Look at this FZT. So this is just a polynomial in Z and T, which is defined by Z to the power P square plus T plus SP. S is an integer such that P does not divide S. So it's co-prime to S. Let small x denote the image of capital X in A. Then Astronomer had proved in 1987 that A is a stably polynomial ring. A is not isomorphic to a polynomial ring over Kx. That is not as a Kx algebra is not isomorphic to Kx2. But he raised this question whether A is a polynomial ring over K. So this and this is little different. And again, Astronomer was had a problem. This was related to the linearization and the cancellation, Zariski's cancellation problem, which I will be talking to. So what's the genesis of this investigation? So this problem, the investigating this kind of threefold is related to the Zariski's cancellation problem, Abhyankar-Sate epimorphism theorem, and the Segre-Nagata lines, the affine fibration problem, this, or in particular in this case is a A2 fibration problem and the Astronomer's threefold, and the linearization problem, which gave rise to this Russell-Korus threefold. We will talk about all briefly about these problems. So I first begin with this Zariski's cancellation problem. So this Zariski's cancellation problem asks whether the polynomial ring Kx1 up to Xn is cancellative. That is, suppose A is a finitely generated K algebra and the polynomial ring in one variable over A is isomorphic to a polynomial ring in n plus one variable over K. Does this necessarily imply that A is isomorphic to a polynomial ring in n variables? So this was a problem. Equivalently, if you are an algebraically closed field, you can ask whether the affine variety Kn is cancellative. That is, if V is an affine variety and the cylinder over V is isomorphic to the affine n plus 1 space, does this necessarily imply that V is isomorphic to the affine n space? So for instance, this is for the students to understand what is the problem. So you look at this polynomial ring in n plus 1 variable, we can write it as a polynomial in xn plus 1 with coefficients from kx1 up to xn. Now this, let me call this ring A, but this ring AW can be expressed in infinitely many ways. For example, you take with a kxy. So this kxy is a polynomial ring in y over kx, but it's also a polynomial ring over kx plus y. And you can change x plus y square, x plus yn, x plus phi y, and you can keep on changing by any automorphism, but this y is fixed. So the Zariski's cancellation problem essentially asks whether all these coefficient rings are necessarily isomorphic. They need not be same, as we can see from very trivial examples. The question is whether all these are necessarily isomorphic. The coefficient rings are necessarily isomorphic. So this problem was known to have an affirmative answer for the case n equal to 1. So the polynomial ring in one variable is cancellative. It follows from a difficult, but okay, a more general result of Abhyankar, Ekin and Heinzer. Whereas this case for n equal to 2, the polynomial ring kxy is cancellative. This was a very difficult result. It was proved by Miyanishi and Sugi with an important contribution due to Fujita. Soon, Peter Russell extended this result over any perfect field K. And recently, not recently, but we thought that we should have a proof for any field K instead of perfect. So we have generalized it to this. So this research on the case n equal to 2 had led to the beautiful topological characterization of the C2 by C.P. Ramanujan in 1971. So this is very highly important result, which had led to many results in affine algebraic geometry. Later, Miyanishi had given some algebraic characterization of the polynomial ring K2, which eventually was used by Miyanishi, Sugi, and Fujita to solve this problem. This result of topological characterization of C2, which was given by C.P. Ramanujan, was also used by Gurjar to give a proof of the cancellation property of Kxy. So this attempt was proved to be successful in some time in year 2000 probably. So I showed that this ring, this result, this cancellation problem does not have an affirmative solution for a field of positive characteristic and for any integer n greater than equal to 3. So we'll talk about this, how does we came here. But this result is, this Zariski's cancellation problem, this problem is still open for a field of characteristic 0, and it's a very difficult problem. Now we come to this epimorphism theorem. This theorem is due to Abhyankar and Moe. So now let K be a field of characteristic 0 and take two polynomials f and g in one variable such that you have a polynomial in two variable p such that p of fg you can get w. That is for some polynomial pxy and kxy. Then you can show, or no, it's very difficult to show, but this is a theorem that either the w degree of f divides w degree of g, or the w degree of g divides the w degree of f. So this is the most famous result of Abhyankar and Moe. From this theorem, one can prove that if you have an surjection, epimorphism from a polynomial ring in two variable to a polynomial ring in one variable, of course the kernel will be generated by one element only because KZT is an UFD. So if f is the kernel, which is the generating this kernel of this epimorphism, then this f is actually a coordinate or a variable. So one can deduce this from this, but little bit. So let me talk about this epimorphism problem for hyperplanes. So in general, we can generalize this problem in n variables. We can talk about any epimorphism from a polynomial ring in n variable to a polynomial ring in n minus 1 variable. Of course, the kernel, as I said, will be generated by one polynomial. So the question is whether this implies that f is a coordinate or a variable. So you can see that if your f is x1, then this will hold. So the question is the converse, whether this will imply that f is one of this coordinate up to an automorphism. So this problem was shown to be an affirmative solution by Abhyankar and Moe and independently by Suzuki for a field of characteristic 0. But a counterexample was known as early as in 1957 by Segre, and later this is envisaged that this problem will have an affirmative solution for a field of characteristic 0. So this is the Abhyankar-Sates conjecture that any epimorphism from Kn to Kn minus 1, if the kernel is generated by f, then f is a coordinate. So till now, till date, so this is one of the oldest result in 1975. Till now, we don't have any counter example over a field of characteristic 0. We have some affirmative solution. So we'll talk about that. So let me give a definition. So a polynomial f is said to be a non-trivial line if kzt mod f is isomorphic to k1, but f is not a coordinate. So what this Abhyankar-Mohs-Suzuki's theorem says, that over a field of characteristic 0, there does not exist any non-trivial line, whereas Segre's example will give you a non-trivial line. So this later Nagata in 1972 gave some family of examples of non-trivial lines. So this is one of the example. Let K be a field of positive characteristic and S be an integer such that P does not divide S. Then F is ZP square plus T plus T to the power SP. Then F is a non-trivial line in KZT. So this was a Segre's Nagata line. I also discussed some affirmative solution for n equal to 3, not all, but just some. So this was due to Sathe and Russell, which is really, so we know this Abhyankar's Moh is for n equal to 2. Now, what about n equal to 3? So n equal to 3, Sathe and Russell considered this independently. They have considered this special case where G is a polynomial which is linear in Y. Then Sathe has given an affirmative solution in characteristic 0, and Russell had given an independent proof over a field of any characteristics. So both these theorems says that even over a field of positive characteristic, we may have some affirmative solution. Their results were much more deep. They proved that you can have an automorphism of KZT, where x1 is one of the coordinate and one of the coordinate or variable, and this coefficient of y you can write as a polynomial in just one variable. And in that one variable, this x1, kxyz is kx1g and one more variable. So this also one can compute. That's one more variable that one can also compute. This is an algorithmic proof. So one can give a complete. One can actually give the automorphism which sends some coordinate to G. So now this linear mail which I was considering, this affine threefold. So we can see an affirmative solution to this problem, this epimorphism problem, for when this y is of the form x to the power m and n is an integer greater than 1. We'll see this, how this comes. So this study of this threefold x to the power my minus bx zt is also answers one of the special case of this linear planes for 4 variables. Now I will talk about this affine fibration problem. So affine fibration problem is a very old problem. It's come from topology, I suppose. I don't know much about that, but I know the problem. So the problem is let R be a ring and P be a prime ideal of R and A be an R algebra. So I suppose this notation is known to all of you, that Kp is the field of fractions of the integral domain R mod P, and A tensor Kp is the fiber ring of A at P. This problem is to extract information about the R algebra A from the data on its fiber ring. So suppose I give you some information about the fiber rings. If all the fiber rings are finitely generated, can you conclude that the ring A is finitely generated? So this kind of questions, of course, this answer is no. But what about this problem? So let me define a ring A, an R algebra A is called an AN fibration over R if A is flat, finitely generated, and the fiber rings of A are all polynomial rings, where n is fixed for every prime ideal P of R. So this definition is probably due to Sathe, this definition of fibration. There are other definition of fibration, but AN fibration for me is a finitely generated algebra which is flat and all the fiber rings are polynomial rings. This famous problem of Dolgachov and Westphaler asked that if you have a regular local ring of dimension D and A is an AN fibration over R, is then A necessarily isomorphic to a polynomial ring in n variables over R? So this is for students to think about. One can talk about this fibration problem. It's very involved and difficult, but one can talk about other kind of problems like finitely generated. So there are some known answers. One cannot just go and ask these questions, but one can keep thinking. Yes. So this is again the same questions. A regular local ring of dimension D and A is an AN fibration. Whether a finitely generated flat R algebra satisfying this condition is A necessarily isomorphic to Rn. So in this regard, the affirmative solutions are for n equal to 1. So if we are talking about A1 fibration, and for A1 fibration, the answer is yes. And irrespective of the dimension, the answer is yes. This was first shown by Kambayashi and Miyanishi in 1978. But later, this result was modified by A.K. Datta in 1995. He showed that one did not assume this condition for every prime ideal P of R. It's enough to assume this condition holds for prime ideals of height less than equal to 1, and one need not even take R to be regular. The result is true even for a normal ring. So over a normal ring, if you assume this condition just for height 1 prime ideals, then A1 fibrations are trivial. So this is a well understood A1 fibration. What about A2 fibration? So A2 fibration, this is the only thing which I can say. This is a result due to Sartre, and it's a non-trivial result. It's highly non-trivial. It uses this expansion techniques of this epimorph Abhenkar's Moe. This expansion techniques which were developed by Abhenkar and Moe to give this epimorphism theorem. This was used by Sartre to prove this result, that over a PID or discrete valuation ring containing Q, the answer is yes. And soon Professor Asanuma gave an counter example when R does not contain Q. Asanuma has also, so this problem is open for A2 fibration when you increase the dimension even by 1. So forget about higher dimension, say AN fibration. These problems are really very difficult, open problems. And moment you increase the dimension, it's a very difficult problems. But there is one affirmative, one good thing, is one solution given by Asanuma which we have, is that he has given a stable structure of it, that any AN fibration over a regular local ring is a stably polynomial ring, irrespective of the dimension of the ring, irrespective of which n are you taking, and irrespective of the fact whether you are R contains Q or R does not contain Q. So this is probably, I would say, this the last result on the affine fibration problem, that over a regular local ring, affine fibrations are stably polynomial rings. So this was again a key, that if you want to have counter examples to this cancellation kind of problems, you better look at examples which are counter examples in the affine fibration problems. I just hope I am audible and clear. Now
Yes,
let's
you are.
KB.
Yes.
Sorry. So this is this example of Asanuma which he had constructed to give this counter example to this n equal to 2 and d equal to 1 case when R does not contain Q. So this example was let K be a field of positive characteristic, and this is this Asanuma's threefold which I discussed in the beginning. So just note that this polynomial ZP square plus T plus TSP is a special polynomial. It's the Segre-Nagata non-trivial line. This is a little bit special. So Asanuma had proved that this ring A is an A2 fibration over Kx, and A is a stably polynomial ring over Kx. That means it's a non-trivial A2 fibration. That is, it's not, and further A is not a polynomial ring over Kx. So it's an A2 fibration over Kx which is not a polynomial ring over Kx. Asanuma also used this example later in 1994 when K is a infinite field. I probably have missed. K must be an infinite field. So he used this example to give non-linearizable K star actions on Kn for any integer n greater than or equal to 4. So I will talk about this linearization later, but I just trying to give you the significance of this example. This one example, as you can see, that it's a counter example to the A2 fibration problem, and using this example itself, he gave non-linearizable K star actions on Kn for n greater than or equal to 4, and he posed this problem whether A is a polynomial ring over K. So this asynchronous threefold, this question was popularized by Peter Russell, because you can see this Asanuma had mentioned in his paper about his dilemma that if you can prove that A is a polynomial ring, then you solve this linearization problem. So then you can construct a non-linearizable K star action for n equal to 3. So Asanuma had already given counterexample for n greater than or equal to 4. So if you prove that it's actually a polynomial ring, then you also have non-linearizable K star actions in positive characteristic for n equal to 3. And if you prove no, then clearly this is a counterexample to the Zariski's cancellation problem in positive characteristic. This was popularized by Peter Russell as Asanuma's dilemma. Now, what I have shown this, that this ring A is not a polynomial ring, but for only integers m greater than or equal to 2. So this m is this m. So m equal to 1, I don't know. And as a consequence, this Zariski's cancellation problem does not have an affirmative solution in positive characteristic. I will briefly mention about this linearization problem. So I will talk in terms of algebra. So it asks whether K star action on Kn is linearizable. Algebraically, it would mean that if you have a Z-graded structure on the polynomial ring Kn, can you find an homogeneous set of variables in Kn with respect to this given Z grading? So suppose you write Kn as direct sum of Gi, where I varies over all integers. Can you find coordinates of variables which are homogeneous? So this is the linearization problem. This problem, one can prove it's an affirmative solution when n is less than or equal to 2. And for n equal to 3, this was the most difficult case, and it was proved by Russell and Koros in 1997. And this is precisely where this Russell had constructed this example. I will talk about it in the next slide. And this was proved recently by Russell and Koros over a field of any characteristic 0 only. So from complex numbers, they reduce it to characteristic 0. And for n equal to 3, positive characteristic, this is open. For n equal to 4, characteristic 0, this is open. But for n greater than or equal to 5, the answer is no. And n greater than or equal to 4, the answer is no due to Asanuma in positive characteristic. And n greater than or equal to 5, the answer is no when k is r, the real numbers. One does not know what happens when k is complex. And there are also results about k star r actions, but I won't talk about this. So this is this Russell-Koros threefold. So the threefold I have introduced in the beginning. So this threefold, this was in fact Russell and Koros together have constructed a family of such threefolds, and they found this coordinate ring, and it was an open problem whether this ring A is a polynomial ring in 3 variables. He showed that this variety V is diffeomorphic to R6. One can deduce that this ring A is a unique factorization domain and it's dominated by an A3. But if you show that A is a polynomial ring in 3 variables, then you will have a counter linearization conjecture would be false for affine 3 space. But I have already said that linearization conjecture is true for A3C, so you know the answer. And if you prove yes, then also this epimorphism conjecture will follow to be non-true. This Abhyankar-Sathe's epimorphism conjecture will be false for C3. Macaulay-Manav have devised a technique in 1996. Using that, he proved that this variety V is not isomorphic to the affine 3 space. That is, A is not a polynomial ring. And this leads to the proof of the linearization conjecture for the affine 3 space in 1997. And this linearization conjecture is still open over a field of characteristic 0, positive characteristic. And the epimorphism conjecture, one does not know, is open in general for C3. And now I can pose a question. Of course, this is well known to experts, that what about A adjoining one more variable? Is it C4? It is probably a very hot topic today, whether A is a stably polynomial ring. Because if you show A is a stably polynomial ring, then you have a counterexample to the Zariski's cancellation conjecture even in characteristic 0. So now I talk about this general threefold. So how all these things led to me study this general threefold. So we can see this asynchronous threefold is of this form. Fxzt is given by this z square, p square plus t sp, where characteristic is p and p does not divide s. And this is a special thing, is a Nagata's non-trivial line. So this question was asked to me by Peter Russell by an email when I solved this problem. He asked me, what about if you take fzt to be any non-trivial line and consider this ring, whether A is still not a polynomial ring? Now, this question that A is still not a polynomial ring, what about this fzt? This fzt's are not classified. There is no known classification of non-trivial lines. There are some family of examples given by Nagata, but you can prove it for those family individually, one by one. But for any non-trivial line, can you say that A is not a polynomial ring? Look at this Russell-Corus threefold. Russell-Corus threefold was over a complex number field. You have x plus z square plus t cube. There is no question of having non-trivial line in characteristic 0. It's a different kind of polynomial. This led to me consider a more general question. Take this affine threefold over any field, irrespective of the characteristic, and any polynomial, so that this family includes both this asynchronous example and the Russell-Corus example. Then we lead to this problem. Find conditions for which A is a stably polynomial ring, A is itself a polynomial ring, and this coordinate sorry x to the power my minus fxzt is a variable in kxyz. So now I present my theorem. So let B be this polynomial ring in 4 variable kxyzt, and G be this linear polynomial in y, and small f is the projection along the line x is equal to 0. X is along the plane x equal to 0, and A is this threefold defined by this polynomial G, and m is an integer greater than 1. Unfortunately, for m equal to 1, this technique does not work. One has to investigate a different technique probably. Then we proved that the following conditions are equivalent. A is a polynomial ring over K3 is equivalent to A is a polynomial ring over Kx, where small x denotes the image of capital X in A. And it's further equivalent to say that the small f is a variable in KZT, and not only that, it's equivalent to say that G is a coordinate, and if G is a coordinate, it's a coordinate along with this x. So G is a coordinate along with x, and all these conditions are equivalent. So as a consequence, we can see that if A is a polynomial ring in 3 variables over a field K, then if and only if this equivalence of 5 statements, one can see that A is a polynomial ring if and only if this fzt is a variable. So this problem of 4 variables, this G is a polynomial in 4 variables, is reduced to the problem in just two variables, F0, Zt. As a consequence, this answers Peter Russell's question, and it provides a general framework for understanding the non-triviality of the Russell-Corus threefold. Further, A is isomorphic to the polynomial ring K3 if and only if G is a coordinate along with G. So this also gives a partial solution to this Abhenker-Satis conjecture for the case n equal to 4. The condition that A is a polynomial ring in K3, polynomial ring if and only if A is a polynomial ring over Kx, says that if we have a non-trivial A2 fibration over Kx, if and only if small F0Zt is a non-trivial line. So in a way, means it answers the Peter Russell's question, and also that you don't have to, it's a more abstract thing, means you don't have to know how does this non-trivial lines look like. In one stroke, you can answer many questions. For instance, if you have a non-trivial line, then, and further, there was another theorem which I proved that if A is this threefold, then if F0Z is a line, then A is a stably polynomial ring. So if you adjoin one more variable, then A becomes a polynomial ring in four variables. That is, if you have a non-trivial line, then A will not be a polynomial ring, but A will be stably a polynomial ring. Now, this gives a recipe for constructing counterexamples to the cancellation problem. So, if we have a now, what about characteristic 0? Characteristic 0, we don't have any non-trivial line. So, this recipe won't work. So, my methods are independent of the characteristic. I'm not saying that I'm using positive characteristic method. It's independent of characteristic. The point is that there does not exist any non-trivial line in characteristic 0. So you cannot have, at least by this method, you don't have an example, counterexample to the cancellation problem in characteristic 0. You have a non-trivial line in positive characteristic, and hence you have this theorem that A is stably polynomial, but A is not a polynomial ring. Further, I can know if I define this integer m and f to be the small f zt, where f is a zt is a non-trivial line, fix this small f, then I also proved that if you vary your integer m, then two such rings will not be isomorphic. That is, if two such rings are isomorphic, if and only if this m is same as n and f is equivalent to g. By equivalent, I mean it's an associate of G. It's a unit multiple of G. So thus, over a field of positive characteristic, you can construct an infinite family of non-isomorphic rings which are stably isomorphic to the polynomial ring in three variables. So how much time I have, miss? I think I'm a bit fast. Hello? Hello?
Yeah, you have at least 15 minutes. Since you started late, you can even go on for another 5+ minutes.
Since I have another lecture to begin with, I probably won't start the proof here. But I will say a few more things about the introduction to the proofs.
Okay.
So now we go back to our original problem. I was talking about all these relations, why we are talking about this problem. So how will you decide whether a K-algebra is a polynomial ring or not? Means how to detect, means how to show whether something is not isomorphic to a polynomial ring. A possible approach would be to find some property of polynomial ring which is not satisfied by the ring A. Say for example, I know if something is a polynomial ring, then this ring must be a regular ring, it must be a unique factorization domain, it must have trivial units. By trivial units, I mean that the units of A are same as units of the field K. So I'm not saying these things are easy to check, but sometimes it's easy to check whether the ring is regular, it's a unique factorization domain, whether the units are trivial. Sometimes you can also check whether all projective modules over A are free, because over a polynomial ring, due to Quillian and Suslin, all projective modules are free. In fact, you can talk about K groups. The K groups of A are trivial. So So these are some invariants. Now I talk about some new invariant which one can think about to check whether the ring is a polynomial ring, which has been highlighted. So this is one invariant is due to Makal-Limonov invariant. I will talk about this. So if something is a polynomial ring, if A is a polynomial ring, then the Makal-Lehmann invariant of A is K, or the Duksan invariant of A should be the whole ring A. So I will talk about what this invariant are. So these invariants are defined by the group actions GA. So GA is the additive group K plus. So an exponential map on a ring A is a ring homomorphism from the ring A to the polynomial ring AU satisfying the following two properties. The first property is that this phi u is this ring homomorphism. If you project it onto A, sending u to 0, then this map, composition map, is identity from A to A. Secondly, so if I write phi v to be this map from A to AV, it's just the same map phi. Instead of u, I will write v. And phi u plus v is same. Again, instead of u, one can write u plus v. So this property should be satisfied that phi v compose phi u is phi v plus u. So that is, if you extend phi v from AU to AUV, just keep u intact. This u to u, send u to u, and this phi v. Then you compose this map. Then this composition must be uv plus u. So these two axioms are basically the two axioms of the group actions of the additive group K plus. So if we go back and write it geometrically, we will get that K plus action. Of course, the arrows will get reversed. It will be some variety V cross A1 to V. So I won't get into that. So it's a group action. It's a written algebraically, one can write it like this. And to define this, one does not need to assume that the ring is a K algebra or anything. It's a more general concept. So it's a ring homomorphism satisfying these two properties. An example, and one can, so for an exponential map, and the ring of phi invariants is defined to be the all elements of A which are preserved under phi. So phi of A is A. It's a subset of A. So geometrically, it's a fixed ring. It's a all polynomials or elements which are fixed by the group action. An exponential map phi is said to be non-trivial if the ring of invariant is not whole of A. Some examples. So one trivial example one can construct is you take the polynomial ring Kx and you define this map from Kx to Kxu by sending x to x plus u. This is a K algebra map. So constants are sent to constant and x is sent to x plus u. So algebraically you can extend it to whole of Kx. One can check that phi is an exponential map on Kx. It's not difficult. What's the ring of invariant in this case? Can anybody guess? The ring of invariant is of course K. No other polynomial is going to be fixed. Only the constants. So the Duksan invariant of a ring A is a subring of A defined by, so it's a subring of A generated by all those polynomials which are fixed by some exponential map. So you keep on varying all exponential maps and look at all those polynomials, all those elements which are fixed by that exponential map. So it's a subring generated by the ring of invariants of all the exponential maps. The Makal-Lehmann invariant is a subring of A defined by the intersection of all the ring of invariants, where phi varies over all the exponential maps of A. So these are invariant. By an invariant, I mean that if you have an automorphism of A, the Makal-Lehmann invariant of A will be preserved. It does not change by an automorphism. So it's fixed. And it's a property of the ring. You can see that, for instance, the Duksan invariant of a polynomial ring is Kn. In general, it's very difficult to classify all the exponential map of a ring A, and even for polynomial rings Kn, it's very difficult to say what are all exponential maps of Kn. But for computing Dirksen invariant, sometimes it's not necessary to know what are all exponential maps. In the polynomial ring, one can construct some special exponential maps phi I, which are some K-algebra maps defined by phi I of xj is xj plus delta ij times u. So delta ij is this Kroneker's delta. So it's a sense any xj to xj for j not equal to I, and for j equal to I, it will send xi plus u. So one can check the ring of invariant of phi I is x1, x2, xi minus 1, xi plus 1 up to kxn. So this is not difficult to check. And moment you have this for phi I, and if you look at the subring generated by all such exponential maps, so if you vary your I, you will get that the everything is inside the Dirksen invariant. So whole Kn is inside Dirksen invariant. So this equivalence of 5 statements which I stated before is actually an equivalence of some 10 statement which involved this Dirksen invariant. So the notations are as before. So the following statements are equivalent. A is a polynomial ring if and only if A is a polynomial ring over Kx, if and only if small f zt is a variable in kzt, if and only if g is a coordinate, if and only if it's a coordinate along with x and g. And these are new, which involves the Dirksen invariant. So if A is a polynomial ring, then of course the Dirksen invariant is whole of A. The converse is also true, that if the Dirksen invariant is whole of A and A is a stably polynomial ring, then A must be a polynomial ring. And similarly, if Dirksen invariant is whole of A, and if A is an A2 fibration over Kx, then A must be a polynomial ring. If F is a line and the Dirksen invariant is whole of A, then A must be a polynomial ring. And this is K1. This is the K1 group of the K theory. This is the first group. So if the K1 of A is K star and A over K is geometrically factorial, so geometrically factorial, you may assume K is algebraically closed and A is a unique factorization domain. Or if you don't want to assume, you assume geometrically factorial. That is, it's a unique factorization domain when you go to an algebraic closure. And finally, this statement, if the units of A mod xa are trivial and A is geometrically factorial and the Dirksen invariant is whole of A. So in the next talk, I will talk about how to, probably I won't be able to give you a proof how to compute the Dirksen invariant, but what was the statements and some proofs of this result. I think I will stop here.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions? Yeah, this is we can have question answers now from audience. I don't see any questions on the chat. Yeah, I have, Nina, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
No, this polynomial G was, I suppose, first constructed by Asanuma, or it came from Russell?
It came, both of them were independent. So this polynomial G, Miss Asanuma had taken this to be a non-trivial line. Miss fxzt, he takes z p square plus t to the power sp. That was a non-trivial line.
Yeah.
And Russell had taken this x plus z square plus t cube. So I have probably missed those. That this.
Yeah.
Just let me say that this Russell chorus threefold. So this Russell chorus threefold was fxzt was x plus z square plus t cube. So I proved that what you have to look at, f0 zt. So
yeah.
in the case of Russell cross threefold, f0 zt is z square plus t cube. So,
Yeah.
which one can say even as graduate student can say that it can never be a coordinate. It's not even define a smooth line, z square plus t cube. So it cannot be one of these coordinates. So this Russell cos threefold is not a polynomial ring.
Yeah.
And so is this non-trivial line of Segre-Nagata. Because it's a non-trivial line, it's not a coordinate. So it cannot, this isonymous threefold again cannot be a polynomial ring.
Okay. So this projection in the ZT plane being a non-trivial line, I guess there is a crucial point here, and not all such hypersurfaces could have this property.
No. See, if proving something is a non-trivial line, I suppose is a very difficult result. Means, in fact, I don't know any non-trivial line other than these Segre-Nagata lines. Means there is a family of Segre-Nagata lines, which are non-trivial lines, which one can show easily. That is not difficult. The Segre-Nagata lines are non-trivial lines. That one can show. But other than that family, one does not know any other example. And in fact, that's a conjecture. I think this conjecture is due to Ganong, that Segre-Nagata lines are the only non-trivial lines. So,
Yes. So if there are any questions,
Can I say something?
yeah, yes, yes, please.
Yeah, Neena, your last theorem, where
yeah.
you have many statements to be equivalent. So the first 4 or 5 statements in itself do not involve the Dodson invariant. I mean,
Yes.
right?
That is why I always highlight that.
But I would imagine even if you just wanted to prove their equivalence, still you need the Dodson invariant. Is that correct? Or
Yes.
that is a crucial sort of.
So essentially, what I did is I first computed the Dodson invariant of this ring.
Yeah.
So if something has to be a polynomial ring, the Dodson invariant should be whole of A.
Okay.
So that's Dodson invariant is whole of A will give you some, forcefully give you some conditions on fxzt.
Okay.
So that helps.
And Makar-Limanov also plays a role in the proof. Makar-Limanov invariant.
Yeah, Makar-Limanov plays a role in a sense that so these ideas are due to Makar-Limanov, but to compute Makar-Limanov invariant, one has to first compute the Dodson invariant.
Yes.
Not always, but in these examples, at least Makar-Limanov's method was he computed the Dodson invariant without even knowing that, giving that a name. So this name was given by Dodson, this invariant. So he computed the Makar-Limanov invariant, and then he proved the things. But later Dodson has introduced this invariant, and one did not go to Makar-Limanov invariant anymore. Of course, the methods are due to Makar-Limanov and Dodson, both of them. But no need to compute Makar-Limanov invariant now.
Okay.
So the Makar-Limanov invariant again of these rings are non-trivial in some sense.
And I suppose that
There's another invariant which I and Nikhilesh have studied. So that invariant was introduced by Frodenberg in his book. In his earlier, there's a book on locomotion derivations by Frodenberg. So in that first edition, he had introduced that notion, this Frodenberg Makar-Limanov invariant. So that we have also studied and given some conditions, a characterization for the affine 3 space using that invariant. Again, computing invariants are not easy. See, the most difficult part of the paper was to compute this Dodson invariant.
Right.
And again, of course, even if we compute this Dodson invariant, then I could relate it with this K theory. So this long exact sequence of K theory, this is called the local sequence. I don't know much about K theory, but whatever I know, a little bit of it would be used to solve this long exact sequence. This comes from local K theories. This is a statement. So using that sequence, one could relate it with this, and then finally one gets these results.
Thanks, Neena. Nice talk.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's a question from Anjan Gupta.
Yeah.
He's asking how could one choose the polynomial G? What is the idea behind guessing or yeah?
So guesswork is, see, as I said, why one considered this ring G, this polynomial G. So this polynomial G, I had to generalize. This generalization came from this Astronomer's threefold and this Russell-Khorez threefold. And because of Russell's quotient, I had to consider any FZT, any non-trivial line or anything. So, but when I was solving this, I could see that nowhere I'm using something is a non-trivial line or something is a special or something. So what is special about was that this form. So why not prove if and only if kind of statement, and then one studied this linear polynomial. So as of now, there's the only motivations came from these examples, and these examples are related to some difficult problems. So yeah. So
okay, so I guess I don't see any more questions on the chat. So Nina, we thank you for your talk, and
yes,
we
sir.
look
Thank you,
forward
sir.
to your next talk next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we will have a talk on Tuesday by Professor Craig Huneke at the same time, 5:30. So we'll meet you all again at that time. So thank you very much.